Okay, so good evening, all of you. Before we begin with the session, can you please give me a confirmation in the chat if the audio and video is clear for you all? Are you all able to understand what I'm speaking? So during the course of the class, you students are muted as of now. So you can respond to my questions, and also whenever you have any question, you can put into the chat. I will respond to your queries for sure. Okay, thank you for the confirmation. So let us begin with this master class. It is basically a revision class for all those students who have enrolled into our 51-day course, as you are aware. I hope you have started your preparation with the 51-day course and you have gone through the lectures, if not completely, at least some part of it. So in today's lecture, in this master class of the revision class, basically for the 51-day course, we are looking into the topic of architectural terminology, including building materials and building construction. So what we will do in this particular class is we will first look into, so it more or less would be a revision class with a focus on practicing some questions. We'll try to practice some questions probably which you might not have already practiced. So it could be some of the questions could be past JE questions, or some could be past NATA questions, some could be some could be new questions as well. So I've compiled some questions of the topics which we are going to discuss today. And not only discussing question and answer, it's not just like looking into the question and the answer. We will focus on some core areas and have a discussion on it. We will learn some important concepts, but I'm sure because you have already started your preparation with with the 51-day course, most of the concepts we are going to study in the class are already included in the 51-day course. You are aware about this particular course structure. It comprehensively covers the entire syllabus. So the particular day, so you're going to follow. So 51-day course has a set of 51 lectures, 50 day 1 till day 51, and few additional lectures as well, particularly for sketching based questions. So today's revision class is related to topics starting from day 13 approximately. So 13, 14, 15, 16, I think those are the days, day 13, 14, 15, and 16, which relate to the topic of architectural vocabulary, building construction, building material. So those are the topics we are going to revise in this lecture. So like this particular course, 51-day course, it's not just a recorded course like you are aware. Not only the content which you have, along with that, we're going to have such revision classes throughout your preparation, which I'm sure will be beneficial for your NATA examination and your NATA preparation. So let us take up some questions now, and also so related to these topics of building materials and construction mainly, and some questions of architectural terminology as well. I want you all to be interactive. Whenever I ask something, put your answers into the chat so that I know that you're following things. Any doubts also you can always ask me. I will repeat it for you always. So don't keep your doubts to yourself. So to first begin with, so these diagrams, these pictures at the bottom, these are just for your reference. I'm explaining. So in the actual question, this is actually a question from past JE paper actually. Similar questions are asked in NATA as well multiple times. So when you get a question, it's just this question you have. They'll not give you a picture always. Sometimes there can be questions of picture based pattern also, but this is not a picture based question. So if you look at this question, identify the building material. See, you don't only get name of the building or something, they're asking us the building material here. What is the building material? Primarily used in cladding of Lotus Temple. So the name of the building is already given. Does anyone know where is this located? In our lecture for building construction, I think we did discuss about this already. Building construction of materials, we've discussed this particular building. Does anyone know the location of it? Lotus Temple. I'm sure some of you will be aware. Where is it located? Which city? Please respond to the questions. Put your answers. Absolutely right. So this is located in New Delhi, as you are aware. Does anyone know what is it used as? So it is written in the temple, in the name itself. It is a temple, Lotus Temple. So basically, when you study about a building, you need to know all its important points, basics, including the architect. Does anyone know the name of the architect of Lotus Temple? It is located in New Delhi. Number two, its architect is Paribos Saba. That's the name of the architect. He's an Iranian architect who designed this particular temple. Does anyone know now it is used as a temple that is written in the name itself? So can anyone tell me which religion, which faith, which religious structure is it? Or this religious structure belongs to which faith? Is it a Hindu temple or some church or which religion? Does anyone know the religion which it belongs to by any chance? So these basics can be asked as questions in the NATA and also JEE. So whenever you learn about a building, you need to know some basics about it. JM has an answer. No, JM, it is a religious structure belonging to the Baha'i faith. It's the house of worship for Baha'i faith. So that is also something you can know. So these are some basics with respect to its location, architect, and what is it used as. Now coming to the architectural details. So you might have already, there's a lecture for important buildings in our 51-day course. You know the methodology we use for studying about the buildings, because in NATA and JEE exam, they can ask you name of the architect. They can ask you the construction, architectural detail and material detail like in this question. They can ask you location, multiple questions on location have been asked in the past. They can ask you the utility, the use of a building. So these basics you have to know. So firstly, I gave you these basics of its use, architect and location. Now moving towards the architectural detail, this particular structure, if anyone has completed the building materials and construction lecture, you can answer me this question. Can you tell me what type of construction is this? These structures in architecture, what type of construction is it called as? A type of construction where you have these plates or petal-like structures defining the wall and the roof both. Ashish, no, I'm not yet asking you the answer. I'm not asking the material. What is the type of construction? If you have attended the lecture of building construction, anyone, you will know the answer for it. So this type of construction is referred to as shell construction in architecture. Now coming to, so that's the type of construction here. Now coming to the material used. So this particular structure, if you can see, okay, even before we move to material, you can know about its architectural detail. Lotus Temple has, so one important point you can remember is in the architecture of Lotus Temple, 9 is a number which is seen in multiple aspects of the design of this particular temple. So various aspects of Lotus Temple are the design features of it revolve around this number 9. Like the total number of entry points, there are 9 entrance gateways to this temple. So you can remember such architectural details. There are a total of 9 entrance gateways in this temple. Other than that, the petals you see, so it is in the form of a lotus, obviously. The architect designed it in the form of a lotus with a lot of petals. If you look at the number of petals, you can see in this picture, can anyone count and tell me how many layers of petals do you have? So it's not just single layer. So there are multiple layers of petals. There's a central layer, a middle layer. So there are, how many layers do you see in this? Jam is absolutely right. So you see there are 3 layers in this particular structure. In each layer, second, so this is first, the second one, and the third layer. So there are 3 layers of petals which you see in this lotus, and in each layer there are 9. So I told you 9 is the number. There are 9 entrance points into this particular structure, and Lotus Temple is a 3-layered structure. Each layer has 9 petals. That gives us the total number of shells in this particular structure as 27. So it is a shell construction wherein the shells are basically denoting the 27 petals of the lotus. Now these 27 petals are in 3 layers, 9 petals in each layer. You can see in this picture also, this is actually how it looks from inside. It is the interior picture. This is a close-up image of the cladding of it. So you can remember this term cladding. What is cladding in architecture? We've studied this also in some building construction lecture already in the 51-day course. If you have attended that lecture already, I know some students have recently joined. You might not have covered it yet, but that is fine. You can attend the revision class. You'll have some basic idea of it. Then you can start watching the lectures and you can cover this topic later on as well. So as far as cladding is covered, what is cladding? It is a process where you have a core material wherein you cover it with something else. So covering is basically cladding. So this structure, the white colored cladding which you see, that is just the top layer. From inside, it is not the same material. So what is the material of construction used over here? This is made out of concrete. So these shells are made out of concrete. So the shell, it's a shell construction. We have 27 concrete shells, and these concrete shells are covered with marble panels. You can see in this close-up image, I'm not sure how clear it is for you in the video, but you can see the grain, the pattern of white marble used here. The white marble used here in this particular structure was brought from Greece. I hope you know, if you have studied, attended the history of architecture classes, we know that in Greek architecture, white marble is the most important construction material, including in the temple of Parthenon, you see it. So the same white marble was brought in to India to construct this particular structure, particularly to clad it. So it is concrete shell structure with marble cladding. So that is, so basically when you study in even other than the 51-day course, even other than the revision classes, when you practice questions from the test series or from your study material books, you have to go to this level of detail for every question. ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ हाँ we saw the question building material, okay, marble is the answer. Let's move to the next question. That is the worst approach you can have for competitive exam preparation. You have to look into the complete story behind that particular building which we are talking about, including location, architect, utility, construction, architectural detail, including material, construction technique used in it, architectural features in terms of layout. This is the level of detail which is intended for the preparation of NATA and JEE examination. I hope you have got a thorough understanding of it. Just to count that number 9, if you look into the interior over here, you see this lotus petal on the top. You can see this has 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the number 9, you can see those 9 ribs coming in from the peak in the interior. This is how it is inside. So this structure, it's a holy structure for the Baha'i faith. However, it is open for all religions, and this particular structure basically stands for peace, becomes a symbol of peace. You can any faith can people can enter in and pray according to their uh, say belief system. Now, moving on to the next one. This is not a question, but just because we've learned about shell construction, Lotus Temple, and its detail, there is one more very famous structure, which also is an example for shell construction, which we have discussed in the building construction class and the shell construction topic. So this also is based out of shell construction. Doesn't even know the name of it, because picture based questions, asking the name of it is something which is asked. At least one such question will be asked in the NATA examination also. They'll give you the picture and ask you what is the name of the building. So can anyone tell me what is the name of this famous building, which is also a UNESCO heritage site actually? Sydney Opera House. Samir is absolutely right. This is in Australia. This is Sydney Opera House. This also is an example for shell construction, and it is located in Australia. Obviously, Sydney is in Australia. Other than that, you can also remember the architect of it, John Hudson. That's the name of the architect of this particular structure. And furthermore, the material, this also is made out of concrete, just like the previous one. This also uses concrete. What is concrete now? Concrete is basically a material made with cement. It is cement mixed with sand and gravel. This also is a past question from JE paper. They asked which of the, they gave 4 options and asked what is concrete made of? What is concrete made from? Concrete is made by mixing cement. So not just cement, you might have all seen how slabs are cast. So in building materials, you have to know this detail of what is concrete. It is a mixture of cement, sand, which is also called as fine aggregate in architecture or in building construction, and then gravel, which is basically pebbles or pieces of stone, and then water added to it. These are the basic constituents. There can be some additional admixtures added into concrete in practical terms, but these are the 4 basic aspects, components which are mixed. And if it is reinforced with steel bars, it is called as reinforced cement concrete. This is a broader term. Concrete can be of various types. If you have steel rods embedded into it, like in slabs, columns, generally in our houses, you don't only have concrete, you also have a mesh or network of steel bars into it. That's called reinforced cement concrete, because you're reinforcing it with steel. Anyways, this is also made out of concrete, but the cladding material here, it is not marble. This also looks white in color, but these are not natural stone. Marble, as you are aware, it is a natural stone, which is naturally available. You quarry it from a marble quarry, from a site, from marble stone, which is naturally available, and then polish it to get the panels. But here, the cladding material used was glazed ceramic tiles, which are basically an industrial produced product. It's not a natural stone like marble. So the cladding material, this also has cladding on top of it, but the cladding material is not marble, it is glazed ceramic tiles, which are manufactured unlike the natural stone, that is marble. So that's the comparison with Lotus Temple, Sydney Opera House, which might have similar construction technique, similar architectural detail of white cladding. But the difference in Lotus Temple, it is natural stone white marble from Greece. Here it is white and cream colored glazed ceramic tiles were used in the cladding of the shell structure in Sydney Opera House. So that's a detail of it. Moving on to the next, so that was about shell construction and a practice question also related to it. Now with that, let us move on to the next area of focus of building construction, wherein not only related, it is something which we have studied in architectural terminology if you have attended the lecture already, in architectural vocabulary. Because it's an important topic, in the 51-day course, you have two lectures for architectural vocabulary 1 and 2. So I think in architectural vocabulary 1, we might have studied about arch construction and the terms related to it. So it would be a quick revision for you because it is an important area. Multiple questions have been asked in past NATA from this area. So let us have a discussion on the terms related to it. If anyone knows, probably you can type in your answer. I'll just ask you something. So firstly, you can see there's a door and you have an arch on top of it. Arch is basically a structural component in architecture which is used to support or take load coming on top of it. So there is load or weight coming from the wall that is transferred through the arch and it is transferred into the wall through the arch. So firstly, in an arch, the arches can be of different types. This is a simple semicircular arch which was popularized, which became popular for the first time in Roman architecture. So you see in architecture, the good thing is all the topics are interconnected. Like even though we are focusing on architectural terminology and architectural building materials and construction, there's a strong link with of various areas with history of architecture also, like Roman architecture. Even in this lecture also in the beginning, I've talked about important buildings, I've talked about history. So all the topics of architectural aptitude are interconnected and you have to have that overall general awareness about architecture when you're preparing for NATA and JEE. Okay, now this is a simple semicircular arch which was famous during the Roman times, mainly in the Roman architecture. Does anyone know what is this distance called as? The opening, so basically the clear distance which an arch supports. So arch is supported on a clear distance from here till here. Does anyone know what is that called as? Ashish is absolutely right. That is called as span of the arch. At the same time, the clearance vertically, now this is the horizontal clearance of the structure of arch, that is called span. The vertical clearance on the other hand, does anyone know by any chance what is that called as? The vertical height. An arch also always has a vertical clearance unless it is a flat arch. There's a special type of arch also called as flat arch where you'll not have this vertical clearance, but in any other type of arch other than the flat arch, you'll always have this vertical clearance also, which is called as rise of the arch. So you have span of the arch and rise of the arch, whereas the topmost point of the arch is called as crown of the arch. Crown, basically, that is the term we use for the topmost point of an arch. So these are some basic pointers with respect to the geometry of the arch, of a semicircular arch in particular. Now moving further to the terms associated with the components in it, there are names for the parts of arch. In NATA examination, if you look into the past few years of question papers, every year at least one question. So if you look into the past 2 years, every attempt, so there will be multiple attempts. If you look into the question papers of different attempts also, there has been at least, so from the feedback of students also, we got to know that at least one question will be based on the terms related to arch. So you have to understand the basic terminology of the arch. So it's very simple and easy to know. So just something probably we'll learn in 2 minutes, but maintain a note of it. Don't just listen. सुनने से समझ सबको आएगा. It will be clear once if you just listen once, but make a note that is important. Write down into your notes so that you can revise again later on after the class also. So as far as terms are considered, so if you observe carefully in this picture, uh, the arch, can you make it with a normal brick? So if you observe the shape, is this shape just like how a normal brick is? Is it a cuboid, yes or no? A simple yes or no question. Is this a cuboid? Is this block a normal cuboid like a brick? Obviously, no. A normal cuboidal shaped block cannot interlock. In arch construction, one important aspect of the structural functioning of it is there should be interlocking. The blocks should interlock each other. So that interlocking is only possible when the blocks are wider at the outer end, they are wider outside, and they are narrower inside. So such blocks are called as washers in architecture. These are not blocks like brick. They are wider in the inner part, and they are narrow, so wider outside, narrower inside. So these blocks are called as VOUSSOIRS, washers. Each of this block is called in architecture as a VOUSSOIR, washer. That's the name of the term used. The block of an arch is called, each block of an arch is called as washer. Now moving further, the washer which you have at the extreme, the last washer, that is this one, and similarly one more at this end. The last washer block which you use, which basically is the last block of the arch. There is no more washer below this. Do you have an arch? No, this is normal block. This is a normal stone block. It's not a washer anymore. The last washer is called a springer. This is a past NATA question asked in the year 2023, if I'm not wrong. So this is called as a springer of the arch. The last block, the last washer is called as springer of the arch. Moving to the next point, the central washer on the top, which interlocks everything. So this basically is the most important washer, which is binding, or which is basically finally blocking everything, which will uh, support the overall structure by interlocking the overall structure of the arch. That's absolutely right. I see some of you giving the answer. That's wonderful. This is called as keystone of the arch. That is also something. We have studied this in building construction lecture already. If you have attended it, that's called as the keystone of the arch. Other than that, you can also remember the inner lining of the arch, the inside. So the inner surface of the arch, this particular surface, arch has two surfaces. There's an inner surface and there's an outer surface. The inner surface of the arch is called as intrados. You can write down these points for your reference. The inner surface or the inner lining of the arch is called as intrados, and the outer lining of the arch is called as extrados. Inside, outer is extrados. The outer surface of the outer lining, this particular surface of the arch, that's called as extrados of the arch. Last and final point, so other than the keystone, so it's basically if you see the arch, there are blocks in this half, there are blocks in this half also. One particular spread, so all the blocks on one side of the keystone, these set of blocks together, that is called as haunch, HAUNCH. So basically all these blocks together, one half of an arch, that is together called as haunch of the arch. Haunch is basically half piece of an arch. So there's one haunch over here, the other haunch over here, both together form the semicircular arch. So these are the basic terms you can remember with respect to, and I tried to give you a real-time image of an arch to have a discussion on these parts so that you can relate to it. I did not just paste an image in your study material. You might have seen we have added a lot of images, pictures of arch and its parts marked. All these parts are marked in your study material also. This was a quick revision for you to remember the parts of an arch. Let us now move on to the next point. We'll have a discussion of some important points of building construction. Then we will look into some questions, practice questions. So if you look into this picture, there is a window over here in the wall. You might have all drawn pictures from your childhood, probably. If someone asks you to draw a house, probably you will draw a house generally. Students generally draw something like this. बच्चों को ऐसे बोले तो ऐसा कुछ बनाएंगे, एक डोर बना देंगे, विंडो बना देंगे यहाँ पे. People draw this. So If you imagine a wall has a door and a window, if you consider a wall which has a door or a window and a window, both any type of opening, it is a wall, you have a door and a window. If you are constructing this wall with bricks, tell me one thing. On top of this opening, above the door or the window, will you have bricks here, yes or no? On top of the door or the window, will you have bricks? You have wall, the bricks are seen over here for sure. For window on the bottom part also. Do you have bricks on the top as well? Above, obviously, yes, you will have bricks. Now, do you think those bricks can float on the air? This is an opening, right? This is a door or a window which is an opening. Can bricks directly float in the air? Obviously, no. There has to be something to support those bricks. So that in architecture is called as a lintel. That is what you see in this picture also. Samir and Kiran have given me the answer. That's absolutely right. And it's very good. It's very good that your students know. And if you have already studied some basics, it's wonderful that you remember that what you have studied. So I'll mark it. So this particular structure, which will support the bricks on top of the opening, that is called as lintel in architecture. Lintel is seen on top. What is the use of lintel? Lintel supports the bricks on top of the door or window or any other type of opening. Now, if as you can see this picture, this is failure due to improper design or improper strength of a lintel. So this particular building, some architect probably say designed this particular structure, they might have underestimated the weight of brick. ऐसा सोचा होगा bricks तो हल्के क्या है, we can construct it just by placing a wooden plank here. Obviously no, that lintel should be strong enough. What is lintel generally made of? So this lintel in this picture is made out of concrete, the same concrete we studied, cement mixed with sand, gravel, water. It is cast into formwork and placed there, and curing is done. That's how it gets its strength. So it should be strong enough. Otherwise, you can see there will be failure and cracks in the brickwork. You see there are cracks developed in the brickwork. Why? Because of improper or because of insufficient strength in the lintel. The lintel is not strong enough to carry. So that's what you need to remember. What is lintel? It is a horizontal support star. Lintel is always horizontal. Kabhi, it will never be vertical like a column. It is always horizontal like a beam. Lintel is similar to a beam. The only difference is beam supports the slab, whereas lintel supports the load on the opening. That's the only difference. ये डोर या विंडो के ऊपर होता है, whereas beam slab के नीचे होता है, column के ऊपर. So both are similar, however, they basically take the load coming onto the horizontal layer of construction. So basically, lintel is a horizontal structural member which takes the load coming onto it and is placed on top of the openings like doors and windows. That's a discussion on lintel. Multiple questions on lintel have been asked in the past on architecture. So remember in the architecture competitive exams. Moving on to this, I hope you all remember we have studied this in building construction. I'm sure that should be day 16, if I'm not wrong, in a 51-day course. If you have reached over there, can anyone tell me what are these double layered walls called as? Ashish is absolutely right. This is called as a cavity wall. What is cavity wall in architecture, in building construction? Cavity wall is basically a double layered wall. It will have two walls, inner wall and outer wall. Both walls are used together. That is called, so, and an air gap in between, that's called as a cavity wall. So what is a cavity wall in architecture? It is something which has an inner wall and an outer wall and a central air gap between them. So there are two walls. You can see in this picture, there's an inner wall, there's an outer wall. Generally, outer wall is designed with some decorative patterns, could be bricks also, like in this case. So there's an inner wall and an outer wall with an air gap in between. Between these two, you also have a air gap in between. That's what a cavity wall is. Cavity wall is a double layered wall with an inner wall and an outer wall and an air gap in between. And generally, so if you just construct two walls with an air gap, they might not always strongly stand together. To make them stand together, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि one of the wall is just falling away. For both these walls to stand together, they are generally joined with metal ties, like you can see in this picture. There are some elements, some metal pieces which are used to join both the layers of the wall together, which are called as metal ties. You can remember the term metal ties easily because it is tying the layers of the wall together. So that's what a cavity wall is. It is a double layered wall with an inner and outer wall with an air gap and a metal tie joining them together. Why is it used in architecture? That's the next question. You might get this question, okay? Why do we use walls? Basically to enclose a space. If you're designing a building as an architect, if you're designing a space, how can I say, okay, this is the room? When you have walls on all the sides, so walls define the space, they enclose the space. That's the use of a wall. अब enclose करने के लिए you can make the wall with just one layer also. Nandini and Kiran have some answer, and that's absolutely right. It's very good that you remember. So basically, just enclosing the space, you can use a single layer wall for it. But double layer wall or cavity wall has two main advantages, sometimes three, but there are two major advantages for the cavity wall. The first major advantage is it provides heat insulation. It protects the space from heat. So if you're designing a building in hot climate where it is very hot like India, being tropical country, there are a lot of, so most of majority of India with some exceptions on Himalayas, majority of India falls in the hot climate or hot and dry or warm and humid climate, or at least say a composite climate like in case of Delhi where you have summers where summers are extremely hot, right? So in the hot climate regions particularly, it is important that you construct a wall which will protect you from heat. Otherwise, bahar itni garmi hoti hai, so there will be a lot of discomfort for the people in the building. If you are designing a building, you have to design it in a way that people are happy inside. So how can you ensure that? When you are able to think about how to stop the heat. So uncavity wall is one of the methods you can use to stop the heat. So it provides heat insulation. How does it provide heat insulation? One, because there are two layers. Number two, because there is an air gap. Air gap also basically can facilitate, can ensure that there is better heat insulation. Basically, it will protect you from outside heat if the outside temperature is very high. Even in that case, the inside space is well protected, so it offers heat insulation. Sometimes what is done is instead of just having an air gap in between, that gap is filled with some insulating material, particularly sound insulating material. So if you are using materials like, for example, glass wool, there's a material called as glass wool, like that is shown in this picture. So if you are going to use such insulating, so this material can provide sound insulation. Let us say, for example, you're designing a building along a highway. There is a road just beside my building. If you are providing cavity wall along that road and filling it with glass wool, which is an insulating material, bahar ki आवाज नहीं आती, because there is heavy traffic movement if there's a main road. So you can stop or block that unnecessary noise and sound coming into the building. So heat insulation is the major characteristic of cavity wall. But if you are filling it with insulating material, you can also achieve sound insulation as well. You cannot get sound insulation directly, but you can achieve sound insulation if you are using insulating material into the cavity. These are the major uses of cavity wall. The first one. The second important function or use of a cavity wall in architecture is it will protect. Any doubts? Can you call out a wall as the facade? JM, not always. Facade is basically the front face of the building. That's called as facade. So the outer layer is not necessarily always just the facade of the building. It could be the backside of the building also. You can, so in other words, cavity wall is not necessarily provided on the main entrance of the building. You can also provide it at the rear part of the building, the backside of the building. So backside of the building is not called as a facade. Facade is basically the front elevation of a structure. Hope you are able to understand that, Jam. But yes, if the cavity wall is in the front portion of the building, then yes, the outer layer becomes the part of the facade of the overall building, right? So that's heat insulation and sound insulation. The second important characteristic which a double layered cavity wall offers is it will protect the inner portion, inner space from dampness mainly. It basically provides damp protection. Basically, dampness is nothing but water. So if there is rainfall outside, if you're having a single layer wall, there is a possibility. I'm not telling it will always happen, but there is a possibility that the water might come, or sometimes you see when there is rainfall, जिसको हिंदी में सीलन कहते हैं, you see water basically on the inner parts of the building. Sometimes if there is some default in the construction, that problem is basically brought down in double layered wall. because the outer layer will act as a protecting layer. It will protect the inner space. You will never get that problem of dampness inside. So damp protection or waterproofing can be offered. However, there can be some additional say treatment which might be required with for double layered wall. You might need to properly apply the damp proof course, which is not necessary at NATA and JE level to go into. But in your future, when you study architecture, when you do a bachelor's in architecture, you look into the construction detail, because there are various aspects which you need to take care of while designing cavity walls, which you'll study in future. But for now, you can remember exactly what is cavity wall, what is it made of, what are the advantages, or why is it used in architecture. That should be enough. Those are the basics you can remember about cavity wall. Now, with the information we've studied till now, we had a discussion of some important areas of building construction. With that, let us move on to the next practice question. Let us look into this question. This is a past exam question from JE, if I'm not wrong again. So let us look into the past JE question quickly. It's a match the following question where you have brick, arch, lintel, cavity. Have to match it with dampness prevention, bevel closure, openings, and span. Let us go one by one. Can you tell me for cavity wall first? Because we just discussed it. For cavity wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is correct? Dampness prevention, bevel closure, opening, span. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, tell me what is it? I see some students already giving an answer. For cavity wall, right, it will be dampness prevention. So for D, it is 1. For D1, you have only one option. So most of you have told me already the answer is 4. That's actually correct, but let us quickly look into the other parts. Lintel provides support on top of openings. So it will be 3 for this. An arch obviously has span. The clear width of the arch is called span. Brick, when you cut it into pieces, we've studied this in building materials in the lecture of 51-day course. Brick, if you're going to cut it into pieces, there are different types of brick cuts. You have king closer, queen closer, bevel closer, half bat, three-quarter bat, beveled bat. There are different types of brick cuts. So basically a cut brick which has an inclined angular cut along one face, that's called as beveled closer. You can look into the pictures of the cut bricks, which you have also in your study material for your further reference. But yeah, brick cut is one of the brick cuts is bevel closer. The right answer is 2, 3. Okay, for it is 2, 4, right? Arch ka span hai 2, 4, 3, 1. 2, 4, 3, 1. This is what you have in the fourth option. That's the correct answer, like many of you have stated. Next one. This is a past NATA question. Tell me the answer for it. What is the name of the part of the arch indicated by the arrow? They're talking about this block. What is the name of it? I just told you a while ago. We had a discussion on this. What is this part of the arch called as? Absolutely right. Many of you have given me the right answer. Springer is the correct answer. Introduce is the inner lining of the arch. Haunch is basically the half portion of the arch. Keystone is the central block in the center. This is keystone. This is Springer. Springer is the extreme block which you have at the edges of the arch, and that's right. This again is a past NATA question. Tell me the answer for this also. An element, name the element as indicated by the arrow in the figure. Pilaster, lintel, sill beam, pier. On top of the opening, it is basically supporting the bricks on top of the opening. ऐसा कोई opening जिसके ऊपर और bricks रखनी है, so that load is taken by the structure. A structural element which is taking the load of the elements placed on top of the opening is called as a lintel. Many of you have given the perfectly right answer. So lintel is the correct answer for this. What are the other terms? When you practice questions, you have to look into the incorrect options also. What is a pilaster? Pilaster is basically something which looks like column, but which does not take any load. So I'm sure you all know what a column is. Column is basically a vertical element which supports the beam. So how do you, so moving further, actually there is a discussion on that, but basically if you have a slab, the load of the slab is taken by beam. The load from the beam is taken by the column. From the column, it goes to the foundation. From the foundation, it goes to the soil. The load, the weight. The weight of the roof slab is taken by the beam. From beam, the load, the weight goes onto the column. From column, it goes to the column footing, which is basically foundation, from where it goes to the earth or the soil. That's how the building is generally designed. Pilaster, unlike pillar or column is same. Pilaster is something which looks like a column, but it is not something which actually takes the load. Sometimes you use it in architecture, particularly, for example, let us say you have an arch. You see this in a lot of historic structures also. So for instance, you have an arch here, just for ornamentation, for design purposes. If I provide a column here, not an actual column, but just on the surface, if I use some material, probably cement or even stone pieces, and just ornament or carve, if you're going to carve a pillar over here, that's not actually a column which is taking load. It is just looking like a pillar because it is just a carving, right? So such things are called as pilasters. So pilaster is a decorative column in simple terms. It is an architectural feature which you use as a decorative column in architecture. That's pilaster. Sill beam is something which you provide at the sill level. Sill level is basically below the, if you have a window, the top layer of the top surface of the window is called as a lintel. The bottom part is called sill. We have studied that in building construction. You can check out the full lecture later on. Let me not go into the detail over here. Pier is something similar to column, but pier is a term which is used generally for heavy construction, or could be these grand historic churches. Those grand columns can be called as piers, or particularly the columns which support flyovers, dams. So such components, such vertical pillars which are very huge are called as piers generally in architecture. Moving on, a question on building construction, very simple logical question it is. Before plastering, the surface has to be polished, smooth, rough, cemented. Can you tell what is plastering? When you construct a wall with bricks, you apply some cement plaster on top of it. That's called as plastering. So in order to plaster a surface before plastering, how should it be? Should it be rough or smooth? What do you think? I've put an image over here for your reference. You can see this brick wall. There is a column also beside it. You might have seen this also in construction if you have visited under construction structure. Always before plastering, this is also done for the ceiling, for the slab. Before applying plastering for the RCC slab also, you take, so basically this process is called hacking. Hacking is done. You see these abrasions which are created by applying pressure, that's called as hacking. Why do we do this process of hacking? Why do you make it rough? Because it should hold the plaster perfectly. uh, can you name the structure of dome? I do not understand the doubt. Nandini, structure of dome as in we did not study or cover the dome part yet, right? Okay, elaborate. Please put your question in detail. I did not understand the doubt, but yeah, when basically you apply force onto a surface so that it holds the plaster well, that process is called hacking. Hacking is done generally to basically make the surface rough. So because if you don't have a rough surface, the plaster will fall away. So rough is the right. So this is a simple logical one, but you should know such basic details in about construction techniques in architecture for the competitive examination. So rough is the right answer for this question. The next one, uh, this one, we did discuss about this, the load transfer. We were just talking about this. How is the load transferred from superstructure to substructure? So superstructure, we've discussed these terms in architectural terminology. Okay, got your question, Nandini. We will come to it. I think we did not reach there yet. I've included what you are talking about also in the lecture. So moving further, actually, there is a discussion of dome and its parts. So we'll have a discussion. Don't worry about it. We were discussing about this one, the load transfer. So you can look into this picture. We were talking about this load transfer. So load is basically from the slab, it is taken by the beams. From the beams, it goes to the column. From the column, it goes to the foundation, the column footing. From where it goes to the earth. That's the process of load transfer. So can you tell me the right option from the given options? They have given beam, slab, foundation, earth, column in the options. So the load starts from the slab. It goes to the beam. From beam, it goes to the column. From column, it goes to the foundation. From the foundation, it goes to the earth. So that's the right answer. BAECD. BAECD is given in the third option, and that's the correct answer for this question. That's a load transfer path which you can remember for the structural elements of a building. So that's just a basic concept of load transfer. Moving on to the next one, we've studied this in building construction, actually in architectural terminology lecture. We saw what is the base platform of a building called as, it's called as plinth, and a beam which is constructed at the plinth level. So you see in this picture, identify the building element. So they have shown, so when you have see, if you have seen construction of a building, it all starts firstly by clearing the site. If there is some unevenness, you first clear it. Then excavation is done. You dig the earth for foundation. You lay the column footing and you construct the foundation. You fill back everything. Then you construct a beam at the ground level and you fill it further with soil. So soil filling is done into these gaps, and then you start constructing the walls on top of it. Okay, and then you start constructing walls on top of it. They're asking what is this beam called as? This is called as plinth beam. Why is it called plinth beam? Because it is a beam which is constructed at the plinth level. What is plinth? It is the base platform of the building. So this, once you're done with the construction of this beam and if you fill everything, you'll get the base platform. On this platform, you can construct the building. So that's what a plinth beam is, which is so basically below the plinth beam, you'll have the foundation. Above the plinth beam, you have the superstructure. Substructure is below this, superstructure is above this. That's what a plinth beam is. Next one, an escalator looks like which of the following? Staircase, left, ladder, ramp. A very simple question, simple logical. Escalator looks like what? It looks like a staircase. Escalator is actually referred to as a moving staircase also. So it is something which looks like a staircase. So basically, for vertical transport in buildings, if in a building you want to go from ground floor to the first floor, how can you do that? That's called as vertical access or vertical transport. For vertical access in buildings, for vertical movement in buildings, you can use staircase, or you can use inclined smooth surfaces which are called as ramps. Generally, ramps are used for wheelchair access. Ramps are generally used in hospitals where there is a requirement for movement of stretcher, movement of wheelchair. That's where ramps are generally used. And even in public buildings and public spaces, like if you have an ATM, generally you have a ramp so that people can use the ramp even with a wheelchair, right? So ramps are used for vertical access. Other than that, lifts are used for lifts, also called as elevators, are used. So these are moving cabins which will provide you vertical access. Other than that, you have escalators. Escalators are similar to staircase, just that you have these moving steps. In staircase and in escalator both, you have steps. Step is always made of a tread and a riser. These are also important terms in architecture. The horizontal part is called as a tread. The vertical part of a step is called as riser. So you have a tread and a riser. That's how each step is made of a tread and a riser. That together is called as a step. So series of steps will create a staircase. Series of steps will also create an escalator, moving staircase. Last thing, you might have seen this particularly in airport terminals and all, because airport is such a huge building. And if you have to reach to the assigned gate of your aircraft, it could be a long walking distance inside the building. In such cases, you have such moving belts. Does anyone know what are they called as? And those moving belts sometimes can be inclined also like ramp. So it can also give vertical access in that sense. These are called as travelators, if you know that. These are called as travelators. Travelators are also called as moving walkways. Moving walkways are called as travelators. Escalators, on the other hand, are called as moving staircase or moving steps, basically. These are so travelator is what you see in this picture over here. This is a horizontal travelator. This is an inclined travelator, just like a ramp. These are used generally in public buildings like airport terminals. So that's discussion of it. Moving on to the next important point, probably after this, we just have some questions related to this concept and some additional practice questions. So probably 10 more minutes and we will complete this revision class of this particular topic. So this structure, how is a dome supported in a building, if particularly in church construction, in historic stuff? We studied this in history of architecture subject. Particularly, I think we studied this in the, so under church construction, we have separate lecture in history of architecture for church styles and church construction. Probably we studied that over there. So let us try to understand the terms associated with dome construction. So what is a dome? Basically, a hemispherical support structure, hemispherical roofing structure, which is like half of a sphere. You take a full ball, cut it into half, you get a hemispherical part. That is called as dome. Absolutely right. In Byzantine churches, we might have studied this. So this particular part is called as dome, which is a hemispherical vaulted structure, basically. Inclined hemispherical part of the roof is called as dome. Then you have this ring kind of structure on which the dome rests. This is called as drum of the dome. This is called drum. And on top of the dome, you have an ornamental feature sometimes. This is not always seen. Probably sometimes it is not seen also. So this ornamental feature which you see on the dome, if it is provided, like in Taj Mahal, if you see, even in Taj Mahal, you have a finial on the top. So that is called as lantern, or is also called as finial. This is called as lantern. Sometimes is also called as finial in architecture. So lantern or finial, generally finial is a term which is used for the vertical element just on top of it. On top of the lantern also you have a vertical stick. That is generally called finial in architecture. However, you can use the terms interchangeably. Lantern or finial is the ornamental vertical portion on top of the dome of the dome structure. Then below this drum, you have these triangular pieces. We studied this in Byzantine church architecture. These four such triangular pieces are used to support a dome on top. These in architecture are called as pendentives. Generally, four pendentives are used to support the dome structure. So these are the terms you have to remember. Remember lantern, dome, drum, and pendentives at the bottom. From pendentives, the load will be taken by the column. From the column, it will go to the foundation. That load transfer is seen in dome structures. So questions have been asked in past examinations from this, but just understanding of it in real terms. This is the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, which is located in Vatican City. It is considered to be the prime example of Renaissance style of church architecture. You see a dome and a lantern or finial on top of it. Then you have the drum structure here. Pendentives are not visible from outside. To look at pendentives, you have to go inside the structure. Below the drum, you have these triangular pieces. These are not clearly visible in this picture, but basically these triangular pieces over here, they are called as pendentives at the bottom portion. Below the drum, you have these pendentives. So these are the terms you can remember. This is a past question from NATA examination. Can you give me an answer to this? Typically, what is the architectural element indicated as A called as? Absolutely right. D is the right answer. These are basically pendentives in architecture. So the next one, this is basically a NATA question. If you know this building, the name of the structure, it is Villa Savoy, designed by Le Corbusier, who's a very famous architect, who's also a well-known architect who designed Chandigarh, the first planned city after independence in India. It was designed by Le Corbusier. This building also was designed by Le Corbusier. The name of this building is Villa Savoy. So it's a question related to it. The image given below, actually they have given the name of the building also, Villa Savoy, designed by Le Corbusier. Identify four architectural components from the choice. So it's based on construction detail. They're asking which of the following features are found in this picture. So let us go one by one. Staircase headroom, yes, that is visible. What is staircase headroom? Monty, on top of the steps you have a covering that is called as headroom of staircase. Staircase headroom is visible. So this basically on the top above the staircase you have a headroom on the top. So that structure, it's a term related to this portion of the building. So that's visible. Courtyard, not necessarily. Courtyard is basically a cutout in the ceiling in the roof. That even if there might have been a courtyard here, actually there is no courtyard in Villa Savoy. But agar hota bhi, तो भी we cannot select that as the option because it is not visible in the picture. These are picture based questions. What is visible in this? That is what you need to select. There's no courtyard over here visible. So that's not a correct answer. Portico, do you have a porch on the entrance? Obviously no. What is portico? There should be a projection basically coming out of the structure. If there's a projection coming out, forming an entrance, that is called as portico or porch. That is not seen over here. Portico is not right. Do you have a grid layout in the columns? Yes, the columns are all laid as a grid. You can see there are rows and columns, right? So that grid is seen. Do you have steel columns? We don't know, that material is not visible. However, these are not steel columns over here. Horizontal window, yes or no? Can you tell me? Do you have horizontal bands of windows in this building? Obviously, yes. Horizontal window is also correct. There are four correct options. You have to select four correct options. All the four have to be correctly selected. Next one, decorative parapet. Do you have a parapet wall which is decorative? Obviously, no. A parapet wall is basically something which is provided on top of the terrace for safety purposes. That is not seen here. Terrace is obviously there. There's an open terrace on the top. So H is right. So the correct options are A, D, F, H. These are the four correct options. If you select these four correctly, you'll get the right answer for this multiple select question from past NATA. Moving on, I'm sure you might have all seen this particular structure, particularly in gardens and parks. If you go to a public park or a public garden, uh, I think we started our lecture 5 minutes late, so probably 5 minutes more and we'll end the lecture. We're almost towards the end. Particularly in public gardens and public parks, when you enter, particularly someone cannot always open and close the gate, right? For public spaces, which is a large park, you cannot have people always opening and closing the door. So generally such grid is laid down. Why is it provided? So that cattle, particularly free roaming cows, buffaloes, or for that matter, even other animals like dogs, they should not enter inside. So because people want to enjoy, if a cow or a goat enters and it starts eating the grass, that will not add to the beauty of the garden, obviously. So to avoid stray animals and generally animals from entering inside, wandering inside, to stop that, you provide this structure. This is called as a cattle catcher in architecture or in construction. It's called as a cattle catcher, which wherein basically it avoids these grass-eating animals from entering into gardens and parks. That's the reason, not only gardens and parks, even in many public buildings, sometimes in hospitals, institutes like schools also will have such structure at the entrance gateway. There's an added advantage. Not only it will avoid stray animals from entering in, it also collects the rainwater and drains away the rainwater also. That's also an advantage of this structure, generally seen at the entrance gates. So there was a question on it in NATA exam once. Can you tell me the answer for this? What is the purpose of cow catcher? They've used the term cow catcher, but it is generally called as cattle catcher, or can be called as cow catcher. Restrict entry of only cows, restrict entry of animals, act as water drain, aesthetic purpose only. Aesthetic purpose means beauty, for making it you look beautiful. The purpose is for sure not aesthetic quality. It is not to make a space look beautiful for sure. It acts as a drain, yes. Will it stop only cows? No, it stops other grass-eating animals, including say goats for that matter also, right? So it can restrict any animal. So R and S, C is the correct answer for this question. So it's based on general understanding of spaces. Such terms, such questions also have been asked in the past exams, right? Uh, the last question, probably we'll end it at this point. A truss is shown in the given figure. What type of truss is it? So truss basically is a structure which is used to support sloping roof. So there are different types of trusses. A simple truss where you have one vertical element and angular struts. This is called as a king post truss in architecture. And the wider trusses which have two vertical elements and a horizontal beam, straining beam basically, something which is of this layout. So if you just have a simple vertical, one single truss, a single vertical post, that's called king post truss. This is referred to as queen post truss. What's the picture? What is the structure which you see in this picture? If you observe it, queen post truss, king post truss, bowstring, or warren truss. Obviously, this is queen post truss. A is the correct answer. Just to give you an idea on the other options also, what is a warren truss? Warren truss basically has equilateral triangles in it. If you have a truss generally seen on railway bridges and all, this is called as a warren truss. Bowstring truss has a profile like this, basically. It has a curvilinear D-shaped profile. That's called as a bowstring truss. The right answer for this is queen post truss. Uh, Probably, yeah, we can end it. There are some more practice questions which you can. Okay, tell me the answer for this. This is something very easy and I think it is useful if the picture is clear. They're asking which of the options point a cantilever portion. Is A cantilever? No. What is cantilever? Projection coming out. Can you call C as cantilever? This also is normal slab. Can you call D as cantilever? Yes or no? Absolutely right. D is cantilever. Then B, is this portion also cantilever, which is supporting a staircase? Is it projecting out? Is this projecting out? Yes or no? This one. In staircase, are these portions of the slabs projecting out? Actually, yes, this also is projecting out. You see, this is the slab, and then you have a projection coming out. So that can be called as a cantilever. So that's how B is. It's a projection coming out of it. So B also is a cantilever. So B and D, that's the correct answer for this question. So cantilever is something which projects out of the surface of the building. So D option is the right answer. Many of you have given the correct option. So the remaining ones are actually simple. Do you know what is this? Again, a simple question from NATA. They have given a projection and asked what is the name of it. They marked some part. They're asking what is it. Does anyone know the name of it? Is it a weather shed or what is it used for basically? Weather shed is the correct answer. It provides basically say protects the opening from its sun and also rain. That's what it is. Ashish, it's called as weather shade. This is also called as chaja in architecture. It's the same thing. But here they are asking basically the function of it, right? Its function is to provide a weather shade. But yeah, that element itself is called as chaja. I hope that was a quick revision for you. I hope that was helpful for you. Make sure you attend all the lectures of the 51-day course. I'm sure that will be very helpful for you in the NATA and GE examination, upcoming NATA attempts particularly. We'll meet you in the next, so we will have few more scheduled revision classes in the future. So all the best for your NATA examination. Thank you for attending the session. Bye all of you.